on the American contingent, talking about the Kurds, you say it seems to be something they were banking on. I think rather it's something that they're doing off the seat of their pants.
Yeah,
I think that the Americans at the highest levels thought that apparently they believed their own rhetoric, that the Iranian regime was wobbly, that was the weakest it's ever been in all 47 years of its existence, and we just need to go in there with a shock and awe kind of thing. And according to CENTCOM statements a couple of days ago, that this was double the shock and awe initial phase that we went in on the Operation Desert Storm when we started there, and everybody sees a lot of those videos from history. So we say we went double that. And I think that the belief was that shock and awe from this wobbly government will cause it to fall. And of course, when they assassinated the Ayatollah at the beginning, I think they thought this is going to be easy, man. We're going to get them knocked off and it's going to be easy like Venezuela. There's some reports come out that some people in the American administration actually thought that there was some analogies you can draw from that, like maybe it would be working the same way. That was crazy. Well, obviously that didn't happen. They didn't collapse because they lost the head. They actually replaced him like it was the plan. It was communicated ahead of time. What a surprise that they actually did that. What a surprise also that you get the rally around the flag symbol, and now people are really supporting their government more so than they did before because they're being attacked by Israel and the United States. So now then it seems like they were saying, oh, snap, that didn't work. And we can't just keep that. Believe me, what the classified number is probably higher than what's being reported. And if there's that many missiles being expended already, and we keep dropping these missiles all over the place, and it's not causing them to succumb, it doesn't take much math to realize you can't keep that up very long. So you got to do something else. And now it looks like they thought, ooh, I know. How about we get the Kurds to go in and do this, and we can get them on the ground. Well, that is insane. I mean, that it sounds like that the Kurdish leader is sane, because it would be insane to think that a ground force of just ragtag Kurds, basically infantrymen, are going to be able to invade a country 4 times bigger than Iraq, where we had 300,000 in the 2003 war. Somewhere around that. Yeah. And they have a few thousand. I don't know how many the number is, but it's not very much. And they don't have, tanks and armored personnel carriers, artillery. They don't have, their own air force and drones and all that stuff that a modern military would have to even have a chance. So I have no idea what they think. And does anybody think that if a Kurdish force comes rolling into Iran, that the Iranians are going to somehow get behind them, that's going to say, hey, we'll use them and overthrow the government, or that the army can't repulse something like that? I mean, if anybody does just the least amount of map reconnaissance and look at the terrain between the Kurdistan, Iraq, and Tehran, it's like the worst parts of Afghanistan, if anybody remembers that. Certainly how it was deployed there. I mean, you can't attack over mountains or go through the mountain passes or these roads that are canalized where it's easy to defend. And I mean, you would get slaughtered. So if they're not going in there, that's like going to suicide, because you can't succeed that way. And there's so few of them. It's not a serious argument here. So anyone who's thinking that doesn't know anything about the region or about military affairs or what happened in for example, the Iran-Iraq war. Let's go back to that one. It's just not going to work. And that was with an actual army.
I mean, everything you said is extremely accurate. And what makes it even more worse with the Kurds is, if anybody knows the Kurds, even the Iraqi Kurds are split into 2 groups, the KDP and the PUK. And the Americans kind of made a forced alliance between them about a month ago, but it's only like a month-old alliance, and so it's 2 separate armies joining together. The chances of them working together and coordinating are going to be extremely low.
And then, of course, you got the issue of Turkey. Like, Turkey's going to allow that? I mean, they have a years-long fight with what they call the PKK and terrorists and all that from the Kurds. They're never going to allow anything that's going to unify all those folks around the border, because Turkey has a huge population of Kurds inside their country. So every way you want to look at this is disaster to even think about.
No, without a doubt. So if they fail, which it seems like they have, in terms of enticing the Kurds to rise up, the Iraqi Kurds and the Iranian Kurds, what are the chances that Trump then is forced into boots on the ground? I thought this was highly unlikely, but this possibility seems like it's growing every day. What's your thoughts on that?
Not realistically, it doesn't. The rhetoric may, and people thinking about it. I saw, I guess it was General Keith Kellogg was on Fox News, and I don't remember if it was today or yesterday. I saw the video today, to where he's saying, you know what would be a great idea is let's invade the Karg Island, which is up near Bandar Abbas, their naval base there. And if you capture that, then you can cut off all of their oil supply and then eventually bring them to their knees or so. And I'm like, dude, did you do a map reconnaissance here? Do you know that that's in the middle of the Gulf where all of the Iranian batteries are located? And how are you going to get the troops there? Through the Persian Gulf? You think you're going to send people in through the Strait of Hormuz? You're going to send a ship up there, and then you're going to put troops on there? And how are you going to keep them supplied? Because you would have to have a sustained operation there. And obviously then Iran would be peppering it with missiles, with artillery, because it's close to the border, certainly with drones. I mean, it would be a bloodbath. So the fact that, again, the alleged elite in our side is talking about this like it's a legitimate military operation here, it's like they haven't given the first thought to how you would get there, how we sustain it, and then what that would do to a overall war effort, when the Iranians themselves right now have the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf blocked off, and they haven't even mined it yet. So it's not even a hard block yet, but it could get there. So everywhere you want to look, it's like this has not been thought out well at all. And the fact that you're scrambling at this point after the war has started to try and find something to work, it's just embarrassing.
Many people have proposed the possibility that, and it's something you alluded to in terms of the result, but many people alluded to the fact that the Ayatollah actually left himself out in the open. He's an old man. He was under the impression, it seems like rightly, that if they did manage to take him out and he was willing to do that for the cause, that would unite the entire country. And this is exactly what we've seen. We've seen the entirety of Iran unite, even if they had ideological differences, even if they had political, philosophical, religious differences. Everybody's united under the flag. And so you're not going to get anything happening from within Iran. You're not going to have, as you mentioned, we've just discussed the Kurds coming in. The MEK is almost been defunct. The agents within Iran have been completely weakened. I mean, what is the United States of America and Israel can do in terms of from a ground perspective? Or do you think they've just completely given up on that now?
They should completely give up on it, just because there's no militarily attainable mission that you can do. I mean, if anybody is thinking even further in the United States that, all right, we didn't want to do this, we're going to have to go in with our own ground invasion. I mean, to get 300,000 troops together, I don't know, you would have to have some allied neighbor. We don't have enough. If you took the entirety of the United States Army and the Marine Corps and probably mobilized some National Guard maneuver units to get there, we wouldn't have enough to get that done. You would have to have others. Even if you got all of that, I cannot underscore this enough. We had 300,000 U.S. and allied troops that did Operation Iraqi Freedom, which itself was 10 years after Operation Desert Storm, where their military was significantly weakened. And then you had a full decade of 2 no-fly zones and the sanctions, et cetera, which, just decimated them further. And now then you think you're going to go into a country that's 4 times physically bigger and the terrain is profoundly worse. You probably can't even get 300,000. So you would have to have much, much more than that to even have a chance. And then you had just early, I think a couple of hours ago, there's an interview, I believe it was on NBC News, with Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, and he was asked about this. There is some talk about ground invasion. Is that something that scares you? And he says, no, of course not. We're prepared for that. We've expected that all along, and we definitely have the capabilities. And you can see it wasn't just kind of empty rhetoric, or at least I didn't interpret it that way. Is that he knows the geography. He knows their history. Even in the Iraq-Iran war of 1980, when it started in 1980, for the first 4 months, there was some significant Iraqi penetration. I think they got up to 75 miles deep before the Iranian side finally got their balance. And then over time, they were able to push them back. And then you had a kind of a stalemate war for whatever it was, another 7 or 8 years. But they defended that, and they succeeded, and they paid a large price for it. They know they can do this. And if there's you talked about, there's already been the rally around the flag just because of the missile, the attacks here and the assassination of their leader, et cetera. If you have a ground invasion where the country is under attack, they are going to pull together again. They have some history at this, and there's every reason to think that they would fight, and all of the advantages would be on the defender side. Just like the advantages were on the Russian side during the 2003 Ukraine advantage, because they had time to build up their defenses. Well, believe me, Iran has defenses around its border, and they know how to fight their terrain better than anybody. So nobody could come in there and think that they're going to get this done on the fly. It's just militarily infeasible. There's just no military path to accomplish what we have set out as objectives, which is why I was so adamant to saying that you set out militarily unattainable objectives for the political deal. So you've started a war with no path to get it done. And now the only thing left is either double down and make it worse, or recognize your mistake and then try to find some face-saving way out, which is what we should do, because that's the only rational path that we can take out right now at the lowest cost to reestablish, the conditions to where we're not going to get harmed anymore. And that's my worry, is that we have too much arrogance and we won't do that.
Yeah. But I mean, the only hope is Donald Trump has kind of demonstrated an ability to kind of change his view on things. So there is that hope there, although then you got to think about the lobby control of him. But in terms of Iran, so we've seen over the last couple of days, Iran has been hit quite a bit. How much more hits can they sustain? Or do you think that they're willing to take those hits because they know that the main weapon supplies and launches are not being hit?
Well, they don't want to take those hits, of course. They want this thing to be over with, and they would love it to be so. But I mean, you take a look at what's being hit, and it's a bunch of buildings. It's civilian infrastructure. I mean, ask the Ukraine side, how long can they sustain hits? 4 years so far. And they have just been pummeled with the Russian missile and drone attacks. And of course, then they also have the pressure of a ground attack on the front lines as well. That's been having the just relentless pressure, and yet they still haven't buckled. Now, Iran doesn't have the allies that the Ukraine side has, so it's not an exact analogy, but there have been reports of humanitarian assistance coming in from both Russia and China. We can only guess at what that may be, so they wouldn't be without anything. But I'm telling you, people of all kinds of nationalities throughout history can really suck down a lot of bombs, and it almost always hardens them, and they'll pay whatever price they have. I think that they can take these hits indefinitely. Wow. And they'll suffer a lot of casualties, but it's a country of 90 million. I mean, are you going to try to kill everybody? I mean, I don't know what they're going to think. And just look, and probably the best example, and I think you and I talked about this the last time. Yeah. Look at the Gaza Strip, this tiny little enclave that has seen just profound amounts of firepower dropped on it from Israel, and to the point to where almost every building has been wiped out, and yet you see the people have not been succumbed, and they continue to resist with the Hamas even. So you can't even get that in this tiny little strip. Now imagine a country 4 times bigger than Iraq. It just seems implausible to me that you're going to bomb them into submission. I just don't see it happening.